Alright guys, so today I'm going to show you how to replace the front brake pads and rotors on a 2015 Chevy Impala. This is the LT model. Just a quick heads up before we get started, I do know that the parts are different for the limited LT compared to the LT. So this one right here is going to be the just the LT, not the limited. So first thing you're going to want to do is find the pinch weld and get it jacked up and on jack stand. So I'm going to do that real quick, and I will be right back. Alright, so all the tools today that you're going to need is a 9/16 wrench or socket. Ratcheting wrench makes it a lot easier. You're going to want a 21mm wrench. You may or may not need a breaker bar, depending on how tight your bolts are. You're going to want a C-clamp for compressing your caliper. Your caliper piston, sorry. You may or may not need a vice grip. And you're going to want a T30, get it to focus here, T30 star bit there. You're also going to need a jack stands, and of course some way to remove your lug nuts. Alright, so we got our brake caliper here. So first thing you're going to want to do is remove this top bolt here, and right on the bottom side, right there. So I'm going to set you down and I'll do that real quick. This is just going to be a 9/16. You're going to break both of these loose, like I said, right here, and on the bottom side right here. Also, just to note, there is a little slide pin right here. It may spin if you're trying to break these bolts loose. If that happens, you just got to grab a pair of vice grips and clamp onto that little bolt there, and then it should come right off. I'm just going to pull these out real quick. Put that aside. Now you're just going to take this, your caliper here, and just pull that right off. Alright, and then you'll just want to tuck this somewhere where it's not going to fall, because you don't want to put too much pressure or twist this around. So I'm going to set this up here for now. Next step you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove this bracket here. So to do that, there's just two bolts on the back side here. So there is one, and there is, get a better angle here, there is two. So 1, 2, and these are going to be 21mm. Just a little tip here, if you turn the wheel, it's going to give you much better access to those two bolts here. Make it a lot easier to get them off. Just take your breaker bar, and break them loose. So I'm going to get these pulled off the rest of the way, and I will move right on to the next step. Also makes it a lot easier if you've got a ratcheting ratchet like this one, or ratcheting wrench, my bad. Bracket here, just pull right off. Just a quick note here, you do not have to remove this if you are just doing the brake pads. You only need to remove this bracket here if you are replacing the rotor, which since I'm here anyways, I'm just going to do it. So for this, all you need is a T30 star bit. See if I can get it to focus there. This is just a T30. And just break it loose. Pull that out, set it aside. Now your rotor should just slide right off. Next step you're going to want to do is just make sure you clean up this area. Clean it up with rust, so just take a little sandpaper or a Dremel and just remove all that sand or that rust there, excuse me, to make sure that the new rotor sits flush on the hub. Okay guys, now it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to get enough of it away so that it's going to sit flush on there. I've already taken most of this off. That should be all you need to do. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, just enough so that it sits flush on there. What you're going to do now is you're just going to take your rotor, make sure you line up the hole for the screw, the hole there. Just going to slide that on. Take your screw. Always start by hand. You're just going to want to tighten that back up. Make sure you just get that nice and snug. Alright, now on to the next step. Alright, so next step guys is you're just going to want to pop these little clips off on the end here. So they should just pop off by hand just like that. Take your shiny new ones. I can do this one-handed here. Just want to make sure that they clip on just like that. Go ahead and do both sides. There you are. We'll move on to the next step here, which is just putting this back on the rotor here. What you do here is you have to make sure you set this back up in the right spot. Come around back here. And if I can get a good angle here. Just get your bolt started by hand on the top. Come down to the bottom here, line them up, get it started by hand, and you're just going to want to tighten those back down. Okay, I do know that Chevy puts Loctite on these bolts from the factory, so I do recommend that you do use some Loctite and make sure that they're nice and snug on there for those two bolts. And just a little heads up, you are going to want to make sure that you get some brake lubricant. You can pick this up for $1, just a little packet. You're going to want to apply that right here, and on the other side as well. So right there and right there, and that's just going to make sure that these brake pads move nice and smoothly and quietly. So I'm going to do that real quick and I'll be right back. All right, so I got some applied there. You do not need much. You don't want to get it all over the rotor as well. Just make sure you're staying clear of that. So that we got this bracket back on, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to compress this piston here onto your brake caliper. So you just take an old pad here, set it in there, and then just take a C-clamp. I'm not going to be able to do this one-handed, so I'm going to set you down and I'll be right back. Alright, so you just want to do that there. you just take your old your brake pad, cheap C clamp here, and just twist it. You'll see that that piston is going back into the caliper, and that's just going to allow you to fit the caliper back over the new brake pads. So what you're going to want to do here, take your new pads. You'll notice that one has a little clip on it and the other one does not. So the one that does not have the clip will go on the front here. So now that you've got this compressed, you got these all lubed up, you take the brake pads here and just note that the one that does not have the clip will go on the front here. And these are just going to press right down in just like that. And same for the back side. Just take it with the clip. Clip goes near the top. And you just line up this groove here with the groove on that. Excuse me, because I cannot see. Should just snap into place just like so. Now that you've got this nice and compressed all the way in, just going to want to take off the clamp, move the old brake pad, slide this right over like so. Next, all you're going to want to do is take these bolts, line them up, and get them started by hand. Let's take the bottom bolt and do the same. I'm going to tighten these up and I will be right back. Again, if you have this bolt here and it is spinning, that's just the slide pin, so all you got to do, take some vice grips, clamp it on there, then you should be able to tighten that bolt right down. And same goes for the top. These ones didn't give me any trouble, but your mileage may vary. So now that you got those done, what you're going to want to do is pump the brakes so that this doesn't slide anymore. You're just compressing that piston by pressing the brakes in there. That'll make sure that this is clamped nice and tight. So if this is a little bit loose, just pump the brakes a few times and you should be good to go. Alright, so now that I've pumped the brakes a few times, you see this is nice and snug and it's not going to go anywhere. So next step is just put your wheel back on and lower the car off jack stands and you should be good to go. Okay, so all you're going to want to do now is slowly back out of the garage or the driveway. Make sure that your brakes are working good. Just take it around the block really quick and make sure everything's tight. It's stopping like it should. Come back, and then you're going to want to make sure you re-torque your wheels to factory spec. All right, so everything checked out. Just like I said, make sure you torque your wheels back to spec, and you are good to go.